We're really pleased to be here. I've got a few of my colleagues here just listed on this slide. So firstly, I'm Amy Mitchell. I'm a partnership manager for our Faculty of Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences at Anglia Ruskin University, and my colleagues who are partnership managers for each of the other faculties that we have in the university are also on the call. One of them, Sarah, you can see listed here, is also going to be talking this morning. And I'm really pleased to also have Camilla Nicol joining us, who is CEO of the Antarctic Heritage Trust. And we've got a really exciting knowledge transfer partnership project going with the Antarctic Heritage Trust at the moment. So really pleased to have Camilla joining us, talking to us about that project, and hopefully giving you some insight from a business perspective as to what it's like applying, setting up a KTP and actually running one, and the impact that it has on the business. Thanks also to my colleague David, who's driving the slides behind the scenes. So if we can have the next slide, please, David. Okay, so just running through what we're going to be focusing on today. It's focused very much on the R&D side of what the university can support. There will be another event in March, which Sarah will give you some more information on shortly, which will focus on working with our students and graduates. But today we're going to focus on our research specialisms and the services that we can offer to support R&D in your company. We'll link that a bit to the kind of national picture and how that fits with funding streams and where the UK government is looking, and that has been changeable, I suppose, over COVID and Brexit and things like that. We'll focus a bit on Innovate UK projects. We do a lot of them, and there's a lot of interest. They're business-led projects that we work with businesses on. And there's lots of bits and bobs going on the Innovate side of things, and with the government resources that are available for you to have a look at that support innovation, and knowledge transfer partnerships, as I mentioned. A look at a current KTP. I've mentioned that Camilla's joining us, and we'll have a bit of a discussion session with Camilla. And then there's a summary and opportunity for any questions at the end. And as I mentioned, we've got another event focusing on the student and graduate side on the 9th of March. So if we can flick forward, please, David. And I'll hand over to Sarah here.
Thanks very much, Amy, and thanks again, Louise, for allowing us to kind of like give you this update in terms of ARU and the support that's available to you as a business. So just in terms of ARU, this is our mission statement here. It's very much about transforming lives through innovative, inclusive, entrepreneurial education and research. So we really want to make a difference to our communities, tackling some of those real world problems and issues, and helping our communities and also our businesses to access the talent, skills, the innovation and the business support that's available through ARU. Something else just to mention as well, we've got 3 key research and innovation themes as part of our strategy. So these are safe and inclusive communities, sustainable futures, and also health, performance and well-being. So that will kind of give you a bit of an idea and an overview of some of the areas of support that you could potentially tap into through ARU. Next slide, please. So in terms of the kind of support that we can offer, I mean, there's so many bits of information here. We can never go into a huge amount of detail, but just to give you a bit of an overview, it's everything from academic consultancy, so tapping into our academic experts for short-term kind of quick win projects, things like contract research, so these tend to be longer-term projects and opportunities, but also, of course, tapping into some of our facilities that we have across the site. So we've got campuses at Chelmsford, Cambridge, and also, of course, we've got the Peterborough base as well now. So we've got a wealth of kind of like facilities that through projects and through collaborations with ARU you can potentially tap into. We also have a couple of innovation centres. So these are kind of like space for startup companies, and we can also offer virtual tenancy. They also run a range of different events and networks as well for the businesses both at the centres and beyond to support that community of innovation. And the Arise Innovation Centres at Harlow and Chelmsford are very much focused on the health, performance and wellbeing agenda. Something else that we can offer, especially if you've not kind of worked with a university before, is an innovation voucher. So these are kind of like small projects and opportunities for you to tap into academic expertise to help you with a small discrete project. It could be something like a feasibility study, proof of concept, market research, maybe some evaluation or some focus groups to help you in terms of starting a project, making the case for further funding and starting that relationship with Anglia Ruskin. And then of course we go into a bit more detail in terms of the innovation funding and expertise. So ways in which we could potentially help you to tap into other funding sources, as well as those small pots of funding that we have within ARU. Next slide, please. So the other side of what we offer in terms of tapping into graduates and students, their talent and expertise as well, we just kind of like have covered very briefly here some of those opportunities. This is the event that we've got later on this year on the 9th of March. So my colleagues will be taking you through a lot more detail around what these offers and opportunities are. Everything from live briefs, which is really engaging with our students and giving them challenges, real world business challenges to work on as part of their course, internships, placements, tapping into our recruitment services as well if you've got posts that you're looking to fill, and also the PhD partnership with industry. Next slide, please. So as Amy mentioned, we're a team of partnership development managers, and we can help you in terms of tapping into the relevant expertise. So the expertise that we have covers the partnership development managers are each assigned to a faculty. So I support the Faculty of Science and Engineering. Amy supports the arts, humanities and social sciences. I think we've got Julian on the call as well. He supports business and law, and also Kirsty McKenzie, who supports our health faculty. So we can tap you into the relevant expertise depending on what your problem, your challenge, the opportunity is. And we can also talk to you about relevant funding routes. We also have a KTP manager who can advise and support you with the process for KTP. And there's the link there to our business inbox. So please do get in touch and talk to us about your challenges and the support that you're looking for. I don't know if you can see, but my cat has actually joined the call. Welcome to Sprocket, who's an expert on all things ARU. The other thing to mention as well is that we can also support you with contracts, paperwork. If you're looking to talk to us confidentially, then of course we can sign an NDA, and we have a commercialisation officer as well who can support us with that process and IP details. Next slide, please. So as Amy mentioned, the ever-changing landscape of funding and government initiatives and the funding that is actually in place to support innovation, but also skills, growth of the local economy. So within the government's Build Back Better programme, it's very much about setting out their plans to invest in infrastructure, skills and innovation, and also helping to level up the UK, enable the transition to net zero and their role within this. So one of those programmes is the Help to Grow programme. We will be sharing these slides with you, of course, after the session, so you'll have access to all the links and connections here. So the Help to Grow programme is a government programme supporting UK SMEs to learn new skills, reach more customers and boost their profits. So this is a management course which will basically tap you into relevant expertise. It's being delivered across the UK and it's being delivered by universities and the business schools. So within this link, you can find the right training session that could be of use to you within your area. Next slide, please. The other thing that's happened fairly recently is that UKRI, so this is research and innovation, have launched an innovation hub. So this is very much, I suppose, a one-stop shop, a portal for all the information that you need as a business to be able to find access to the support, the advice that you need. This is basically everything from UKRI, Innovate UK. It's got information about knowledge transfer networks on there as well, and also the support that's available to companies through Innovate UK Edge. And within this, you can search by business type, business sector, but also in terms of the skills, the support, the funding, the research, collaboration opportunities that you're looking for. So again, we'll share this with the links. Next slide, please. So moving on, I suppose, to the meat of this kind of like talk itself, Innovate UK funding. So Innovate UK is the national innovation agency, and this is where most of the investment from UKRI and government is around supporting kind of like business-led innovation. And this is for any sector, any region, and it's very much something that the government wants to encourage and support businesses to collaborate with universities with the knowledge base for collaborating, bringing in new skills, new expertise to those organisations to help them on their innovation journey and support growth. So there's a number of different calls that are available. The link is down there as well. So within this, you can have a look and see what the current funding opportunities are. These are linked back to things like the industrial strategy challenges, and also areas where government is looking to invest within local economies, but within particular sectors as well. So there's a number of different calls up there at the moment, everything from biomedical catalyst, which is about looking for innovative solutions to address health and healthcare challenges. And there's also better food for all, which is about addressing nutritional challenges, and also farming futures, looking for solutions around automation and robotics within the farming sector. The link that we've put up here is the Smart Grants. So this is the open call, which is supporting companies across any sector, any technology area. And the support that's available here is very much about that game-changing innovation. It has to be viable. It needs to have a significant impact within the UK economy and be supporting what they call disruptive innovation, something that's got a significant opportunity for economic return to the UK. So again, ARU can be your collaboration partner on this project. So we can bring in expertise to help support different work packages, different plans within this project that you might be looking to secure funding for. And they can basically fund feasibility studies. They can also fund industrial research and experimental development projects within this. So with the Smart Grants, the range of funding depends on the cat just muted me, apologies. The joys of having pets. Let me just move the keyboard out of the way. So depending on the size of the project, then let me just check on the website. There's different funding levels. So it's anything from £100,000 up to £500,000 for 6 to 8 month projects. If they're longer term projects, 19 to 36 months, then you can access funding of between 100 £500,000 and £2 million. So that's just one funding pool. Always check the funding pool to see what's available and the eligibility requirements for the project. But again, ARU can kind of like support you with that process and with the application process as well. So I suppose a couple of top tips, just kind of following up from that, is there is further information on all of the funding pools. They also run briefing sessions, so attend one of those. We had some training very recently, which was very, very useful in terms of, yeah, make sure you check the eligibility requirements and the scope of the project, and also the portal itself in terms of the application process. Make sure you answer all the questions that Innovate UK are looking for. And if you do receive an award for funding from Innovate UK, then you'll also tap into support from Innovate UK Edge. They will support you with that process post-award. Next slide, please. So moving on to knowledge transfer partnerships, this is also funded through Innovate UK, and it's a government programme of support, and it's very much about working with the 3 partners that you can see within this slide. So it's about bringing in new skills, embedding new knowledge within an organisation through a skilled graduate, working with the company on their challenge, their innovation project, and embedding that knowledge within the organisation, and also tapping into the academic expertise, be that through ARU or any other university. And that can help in terms of developing new products, new services, developing a culture of innovation within your organisation. But it's very much about driving that innovation, helping you increase your productivity and improving business performance as well. So that was just a very quick overview of KTP, so that we then can actually talk about a current project. So I will hand back to my colleague, Amy. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, thank you. So as Sarah mentioned, a KTP is a 3-way partnership between a consultant academic within a university that might oversee and support the programme, a graduate associate who would be placed within the business, and the business itself driving forward a specific innovation project. So it should be something that's not business as usual. It's something new, it's something exciting for the company. Maybe it's solving a challenge, or maybe it's creating something new that company is going to be working on. And an example of a KTP, a knowledge transfer partnership programme, is our current project that we have running with the UK Antarctic Heritage Trust. So I'm really pleased that Camilla Nicol, the CEO at the UK AHT, is able to join us for a bit of a Q&A session and to talk you through what that project looks like and what it's doing for the company. So we'll have a bit of a discussion with Camilla, and then there'll be an opportunity for you to ask Camilla questions, or Sarah and me and the rest of our team after that. So can I first welcome you, Camilla, and ask that you give us a quick introduction to yourself and to the Antarctic Heritage Trust, and just tell us a bit about the organisation and what you do.
Great, thanks, Amy. It's great to be here. So thank you very much for inviting me to take part. So yeah, I'm Camilla Nicol, the CEO at the UK AHT. We're a charity based here in Cambridge. We actually live in the British Antarctic Survey, and our brief really is to look after historic sites on the Antarctic Peninsula. So these are heritage sites that have been protected under the Antarctic Treaty, and we can serve them in this dreadfully appalling conditions that you might expect for looking after heritage. But critically, and the reason we do this is so that this heritage can persist and be sustained into the future, so that it could tell its story. So we can we can communicate the incredible stories of this particular era of Antarctic history and British Antarctic endeavour. So this is the era of this when science began in the Antarctic from the 1940s. This is the Second World War onwards. So this is after the age of the heroic age of Scott and Shackleton and quests for the pole and that sort of thing. We look after the heritage which kick-started the scientific endeavour in Antarctica. So our brief is twofold, really. One is conserving these historic sites, and you can see on the screen there 2 of them there, which is Port Lockwood, which is the most famous one. Often pops up in the news, particularly around the recruitment of the team that we send out to and they call it the Penguin Post Office. You may have seen that in the news in the last few months. And on the right-hand side, there's another one of our bases. We have 6, and this is base E at Stonington Island, which is much, much further south. And again, there's another historic base. It was a scientific station and a sledging base back in the 1950s and 60s. So conserving these places in these very harsh conditions, which is an ongoing endeavour, as you might expect, but also communicating and telling stories. So really bringing to the fore why these places are important, what they represent, and why that's important, why it's relevant today. So we all talk about climate change and the impact of human activity on our planet, and it is most keenly felt, obviously, and most keenly observed in the Antarctic today, and the sites we look after represent the very birth of that. So we're a charity, charitable organisation. We're very small. There's only 10 or 11 of us on the team, and most of our time is thinking about Antarctic operations and getting paint and wood and timber and carpenters and that sort of thing south. But increasingly, of course, it is about developing audiences and developing opportunities to tell these incredible stories.
Great, thanks, Camilla. I think you've probably kind of led a little bit actually into my next question, because you were talking about why those stories are relevant today and how they link with some of our modern day challenges, particularly around climate change, and where climate change is so obvious in the melting of sea ice and things like that. So the next question is, how did the early thinking develop for the KTP? So I suppose, is that the kind of foundation, I suppose, of where that came from, and what you were thinking, and how that sort of developed, I suppose, into what the idea became for the KTP.
Yeah, absolutely, exactly. I mean, it has always been about how we utilize what this heritage represents to tell engaging, relevant, important stories. But the additional challenge we have, of course, is I come from a museum heritage background. My background has always been looking after heritage here in the UK, where people are able to visit and come and see, and we put on exhibits and people can come and look at them and learn about them. In the Antarctic, that's much more challenging. Of course, it's only a very very small number of people that get down there, in comparison to world population. So actually bringing this heritage closer to home, to people here is the challenge. So it's all very well looking after these historic huts and making sure the paint work is kept up to date and the artifacts are safe and all of that sort of thing. But if we can't bring that to life somehow, then that we're kind of blowing into the gale, really. So this is very much about the need here is very much about how do we bring Antarctica closer? How do we bring this heritage and its stories closer to home, to people here in the UK, or people who aren't in Antarctica. And so it's very much about, so the relevance around climate and science and there's all these contemporary issues it provides a tremendous canvas and opportunity, but actually the practicality of how you bring stories to life. I mean, we could do it in an analog way. We could partner up with a museum and put on displays, maybe build a replica, that sort of thing. But actually, our reach and the interest in the heritage look after is global, and we wanted ways in which we could deliver this connection, this engagement, easily, that could be transportable around the world, for example, and it could be incredibly engaging. But of course, small charity, limited resources, expertise very much directed at looking after heritage, for example. We thought actually we need to partner up here. We need to seek partners that we can maybe bring together expertise, think about these challenges and what there might be the best solutions. And actually how it came about was Amy and I met at a third-party event in London that was thinking about digital innovations and digital interpretation and that sort of thing. And over a coffee break, we bumped into each other, said, "Hi, where are you from?" "Oh, Cambridge." "Where are you from?" "Oh, Cambridge." And a really fantastic conversation started there, where we just explored kind of why we were there, and what we were thinking about. And suddenly this great partnership was born. So it was really about thinking about how can we, with others, build something great and something really important. We're not we're a charity, so we have business goals, income generation, commercial trading, that kind of thing is important to us, but it's equally important is actually reaching people, delivering impact. So it's also about how we can use technology and interpretive engagement strategies and things to reach more people in really meaningful ways, and perhaps drive some income as well. So it's really quite a complex way of thinking about it, but we knew that a collaboration with the university was going to be something quite interesting and could really benefit both of us.
Yeah, sure. And I think I suppose the challenge historically, actually, until quite recently, has been reaching those audiences in sort of creative ways, and it's exploded more recently in terms of the creative ways that you can do that and how we can reach people. And it brings its own challenges because there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of other people trying to do that. But yeah, I think as we chat through what the KTP is actually doing, it is clear that there's ways that you can cut through that, and there's ways that you can be very, very creative and imaginative and clever with how you reach people. So yeah. So how did you find the application process in terms of the amount of development time, the sort of timescales of the idea to actually getting to a point where things were submitted and you had decisions, and also working with the wider team?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest learning from it really is the time it takes and the kind of the gestation period, if you like. This was something we'd been thinking about. So this is basically trying to use digital technology, VR, XR, that sort of thing, to bring this heritage to life. We didn't have that expertise. We knew, had a good sense that the university would be really at the cutting edge of this, because it help us navigate our way around what the best means by which we could deliver these creative solutions could be. It was very much about developing really good relationships. The most important aspect of the application process really was relationship building the common ground, understanding each other's strengths, weaknesses, where we can add value to each other, what a project could look like, and then down to the practicalities of the management of the project, who's going to be involved, what's the communication strategy going to be, all of those sorts of things. It was the application process for the KTP. It's a very structured process. We had tremendous support from other parts of the university. So those who support the kind of the setup of the partnership, the setup of the guiding us through the application process. Academic applications are not straightforward things. So being able to do that together, so to being able to articulate our needs as the organization, as the client, if you like, or the company, and translating that into kind of the academic format, and thinking about it in terms of it is a research project as much as it is about a kind of business development initiative. That was tremendous, and having people like Ben and others and Jodie helping guiding through that process was invaluable. So I would say it is a lengthy process, and worth investing time, effort and money into, in terms of just getting that right, and spending the time communicating and talking and exploring the ideas and trying to get to the real heart of what you're trying to do, and what your roles are going to be, and where, particularly working with ARU and with university, you've got access to such wonderful resources and expertise and ranges of departments and disciplines, and how can you harness some of that to help really drive the project forward. So that takes time. So there's expertise required in putting the application together, and the university is bursting with that kind of expertise, and it's about how we articulate the real need, what the outcomes are going to be, what those milestones are going to be, how the project's going to unfold. And at that end of the project, you have a certain idea how it's going to unfold, but that we'll talk about this in a minute, probably, it does change. So it's being really clear on your goals and objectives, really, and keeping true to those, and that means that will drive the application process really well. But make sure you invest the time in it, I would say. Yeah,
that's a very good point. I think it's most definitely something that is a very rewarding process, actually going through the KTP once it's successful, once the funding's granted. But yeah, the the time and investment needed on all sides for the application process is just an important point to make. So thank you for picking up on that. So moving into actually the project itself, what impacts are you starting to see currently from the project, and how do you feel it's progressing?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tremendous project. I mean, just to kind of summarize how it works. So what we're trying to do is create digital assets from of these heritage sites. So we've picked a couple of them. The one on the right is Base East, Donington, has been the primary focus, and that it's about digitizing that site, bringing it together with the really rich archives that we have here in Cambridge, and the tremendous place that Antarctica is, with a digital solution. And VR is one of the vehicles we're using to create an immersive experience that can bring to life this place that the vast majority of the world will never ever see in person. So how can we bring that experience to life? The project has involved recruiting an associate, and in our case, it's a narrative designer, Leslie, who is critical, pivotal to the project. She is the project manager. She's a programmer. She's she wears many hats, but actually is the life and soul of the project, and actually is the real fulcrum really between in terms of the relationship. So we work around with Leslie, support what she's doing, help solve problems and that sort of thing, develop and devise creative ideas and solutions, and brainstorming, and we work very much as a team. So I think one of the biggest impacts, I think, has been how it's elevated our ambition and what we feel we can achieve, and by doing it together, we've created this incredible multidisciplinary team, with people from ourselves, our organisation, from the British Antarctic Survey, and from ARU, and we're close colleagues, and that has been tremendous in its own right. It's tremendous, but actually just in terms of delivering the project, bringing together that expertise to drive the project and everything that it requires, because it's not just a gaming digital programming project. There's marketing, there's business development, there's PR and communications, there's educational side of it. There's so many facets to it, and being able to draw on the expertise in the university and from the business department, from the story lab, from the gaming department. There's real wealth of expertise that has really elevated what we are able to achieve, what we believe we can do, and what this means for the future. Because this is about our strategic development as an organisation, as a charity, and thinking about, well, how does digital technology play a permanent role in what we do? Paintbrushes and carpenters and saws and hammers and nails are one thing for us, that's an ongoing endeavour. But actually thinking about how technology is a long-term part of future vision and our strategy is really important. So that embedding that culture, embedding that activity in our planning and in our future is really important. So we're not seeing this as a one-off project. Once we finished it, it's done. We see a role for Leslie into the future. Is about how we continue to use this as a means by which we can engage people around the world with this heritage, and, as I say, drive some commercial activity as well around it, so we can derive some income and other commercial benefits from it. So it's lots of impact so far, but I think the most really is about how this isn't going away. This is one project, but we feel there's an ongoing partnership to be had here. It's revolutionising our thinking. And this goes up to my board as well, how we think about ourselves as an organisation as we're projecting our 10-year strategy, for example. What does that look like, and how does this play a part? So real significant impacts, and it is about organisational change as it is about grasping an opportunity. So it's great. And I think the other thing is about how we've been able to be versatile, flexible within it, and how we can take opportunities within the programme, within the project, to really benefit. There's the corollary benefits really of how we think and work, and how this drives business development, as an organisation as a whole. So huge benefits really, but it does, I say, on the flip side of that, requires investment of time particularly. So you do need to have be able to carve out the time, those resources, those people within the team to be able to sustain and keep and driving the project forward. It's not something you can just drop on the individual and hope that it carries on. You've got to really think about embedding it, and know that this, and demonstrate how important that is and do it. And I'd say that's a very important thing we've learned and are continuing to do.
Great, that was such a comprehensive answer, and something that actually I myself wasn't aware of, just the huge range of impacts that you felt across the organisation with it. So it's really interesting to hear. And just going back to your point about how useful and rewarding it is to work with the university team, I think we equally see that from the other side. It's really rewarding to work with such a range of organisations and to see kind of some of the stuff that goes on inside the university walls coming to life outside, where it matters, where it reaches people, where it actually makes a difference, and it's something that's really important to ARU, kind of applying our research externally and just working with a really great team and seeing good things happen is really good in itself as well. And I think you've possibly touched on some of the sort of tips, I suppose, that you might offer to businesses, but just my kind of final question was going to be your sort of top 3 pieces of advice that you might give if somebody said, "Oh, Camilla, I'm thinking of doing a KTP. What would you say?" What would your top 3 pieces of advice be?
Yeah, no, I've been thinking about this. I think preparation and being really clear in what your objectives are. I think, and that having a clear goal so that you always have that focus. And I think that really helps focus everybody in the conversation, because with these sorts of projects and the kind of people that you reach within the university, these are creative, full of ideas, these people that come with all sorts, and actually you can easily get drawn off and distracted into other things. And I think you've got to remain very clear on what you're trying to achieve, and harness all that creativity, energy, and those ideas into that. So that kind of preparation and clear goal at the outset, I think would be my number one. I would say absolutely turn on your ears. I think listening, really communicating, really taking the opportunity to explore those ideas. To say you've got your focus and your goal, but really use the opportunity of working with this incredible institution of the university and all that can offer, to see how you can really derive maximum benefits. So lots of listening, lots of asking questions, lots of just hear each other out, really try and understand each other. You do have different working cultures, you do come from different backgrounds, and that enriches everything you do. But it's if you're too rigid in what you're trying to do, whilst you've got clear focus, but if you're too rigid, then you may lose an opportunity. So be open to those opportunities and do listen. And my third one is, I suppose, it's also allied with that. It's about be prepared to flex. So one of our experience was with the application process. We had to set out a very detailed project plan. So we worked that out over many months, thinking very carefully about it. And of course, once you start, things change. Of course they do, for all sorts of different reasons. Opportunities arise, personnel sometimes change, and that sort of thing. And so being able to be flexible, having that interdisciplinary team who can work together, who can flex together in that way, and seize opportunities as and when they arise, I think it's really important. And be flexible enough to take every opportunity or to evaluate every opportunity that arises. So a KTP opens up so many doors to other things you just won't have known about. Innovate UK opportunities, Innovate Edge. It has leveraged the opportunity for Leslie to take on an apprenticeship training, as well as there's been all sorts of other doors opened that prior to this would never have been available. And so being able to use these tools, take the expertise, use the advice, take the expertise, take those opportunities is really worth doing. So that flexibility and that openness, I think, is really valuable, and everybody gets something out of that, because it's, as I say, it's a team effort, it's a collaboration, you're working together and everybody is benefiting. But ultimately, from a selfish point of view, my organisation, we're looking for this great project. We're looking to embed these new skills and these new ways of thinking, and drive our strategy, and derive the key objectives of growing our audiences, engaging with people, and raising some income. So it's you've got to keep that focus on the goal, but make sure you maximize the opportunity that's presented to you, because it soon passes. The time soon flies. We've only got 9 months left of ours, and it's flown by, but really, really, really worth doing.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Camilla, and thanks for joining us and sharing your experience. I'm going to draw that discussion session to a close there and hand back over to Louise and see if we've got questions for either Camilla or for our university team.
Probably a bit of both, actually. Yes, thank you very, very much for that. It was really fascinating, actually, to hear about the project that you were doing with the digital expertise, for want of a better word. What is the question? Yes, question. We've got Blue Jean to everybody is saying, when you refer to ARU being a partner for supporting UKRI applications, what is ARU charging for this service? And I think we've got another question on the charging funding line as well.
I'm happy to take that one. Usually nothing. If we work with organisations on external bids, I mean, particularly for UKRI, we are a research partner usually. So when we're working with an external organisation, we are partnering with them, and hopefully we can bring our kind of academics to the project, depending on what the business need is. And as a research office, myself and my colleagues Sarah, Julian and Kirsty support the application process and help to form that link between the academic and the business, or maybe it may be more than one academic depending on the project, but very much we're here to work as a team with them on that project. Occasionally we have stuff that's not UKRI, so we might be looking at other pots of government money or pots of charitable foundation money, for example. It would usually be the same case, that we all have a reason to be working on a bid together. We as a university bring something to that bid to work alongside the business. We very much have a mission that we want to see our research making a difference in the real world. So we're working as part of a team with that company to develop a bid. But as Camilla mentioned, often with a UKRI bid, they are business led, and we really need the business to work alongside us to bring their own knowledge and their own information about their business and their goals into the bids to very much kind of bring all the information from all sides together into that bid. I'm just going to check whether my colleagues want to add anything to that, but yeah, it's not a service that we charge for.
I wonder, actually, is it just worth saying about how the grants work? Because you get the grant for the KTP actually is payable to the university, and that that's perhaps is what pays for all of that. In some ways, it's that covers the time that our university colleagues can contribute to the program. So actually, as the business, the KTP grant doesn't come to us; it goes to the university and enables the collaboration to happen. And also there's a financial commitment from us, so we pay the salary for the research associate. So I think that's something to be aware of as the business partner in a KTP. Is there is a financial contribution you must make to the pot, but say Innovate UK in our case, contributed the major grant to enable the whole thing to work to happen. So it's everybody benefits, but I think it's you need to be aware that there is a financial commitment to be had, but the whole purpose is to drive income generation as well and profit into the future. So it is an investment for that.
Does that answer your question, Blue Jean? Because there was a bit of a follow-up question, which you may have just answered, Camilla. Actually, brilliant. Saying, is it all grant funded, or does the commercial partner or recipient contribute? But it doesn't sound like you had to. There was no match funding element.
Jump in terms of
Sarah's frozen for me. Maybe she'll come back in a minute. Oh, no. Right. Can everybody else hear me okay? Or is it just Sarah?
I think it's just Sarah, Louise.
I think it's just Sarah. That's all right then. I was just checking my internet connection there. We'll get her back in a minute, hopefully. Ian By says, and I'm not sure I really understand the question, just to add, so he says, what's the first step in engaging with the ARU, which hopefully Amy can answer. And just to add, is there a triage step?
Do you want me to just add a bit of flavour to that?
Yes, that would be lovely.
So I'm starting a new business with a couple of ARU students actually who are friends of mine. One's year 3, one's year 1, and I'm alumnus as well. It's a mental health app-based business, which is a differentiated disruptor. And what I'm looking for is a number of things. So I'm looking for any grants or funding. I'm looking for market research, particularly focus groups and product testing. And I'm actually looking to pay, and this is very much what Camilla was talking about, paying for a researcher on an ongoing or permanent basis. So part funding a researcher's salary to do data analytics for me and to create meaningful reports out of that hopefully influence at a national policy level. So I'm after funding, I'm after market research, I'm definitely after KTP, and I'm after research resource. So when I talk about triaging, there's quite a lot in all of that. And I don't know where to go to in terms of how I access ARU support across those 4 areas. I'm going to mute myself there, and I'm going to let you pick the bones out of that and tell me what to do.
I'm happy to pick that one up. So I've mentioned in the chat, Ian, about our sort of contact address, which comes into our research and innovation development team. That's a really helpful first port of call for us for all of our initial inquiries, so that we can work out the best place to put them. And usually inquiries into that address go to me or one of my colleagues that look after the other faculties, depending on the nature of the expertise that a business is looking for. So in that case, I think from what you've mentioned, it would probably go to my colleague Kirsty, who would be able to, I think, initially just have a chat with you and understand a bit more, and just be able to go into a bit more depth actually about exactly what it is that you're looking for, and maybe also be able to point you in the direction of some of our academic expertise, so you could understand what their specialism is, how that might be of use to you, and then go from there. And we would also, as part of that discussion, just have a look at external funding sources that we might be able to look at. So Sarah mentioned earlier that we do have an internal innovation voucher scheme, which might be relevant in this case, to cover at least one of the aspects that you've just spoken about. But equally, there might be things through Innovate UK, there might be things through other government schemes that would support elements of what you've just discussed, and it would be worth picking each of those in turn and actually having a bit more of a detailed discussion to understand where that might fit. If there isn't anything for some of those pieces of work that you've mentioned, then there is the option to do consultancy, and as you've already mentioned, to kind of buy some research expertise specifically for what you need, and that can usually be set up quite quickly.
Thank you. I'm just typing an email now. Thank you for that.
Brilliant, thanks for that, and thanks for that, Amy. And Mike Garrett-Green from the Cambridge Peterborough Combined Authority has also said, yeah, it might be worth looking at the GrowthWorks team stuff as well. There was a question, does it depend on which sector, or from which, God, their grammar is better than mine. Does it depend on from which sector is your project, where does your project sit? Are there any criteria or any particular sectors you would support? I don't know whether, Amy, you want to start, but it might be one for all of you.
In a word, no, not really. There aren't specific sectors that we want to support, although it is worth mentioning that we have in the last couple of years developed a new research strategy which has 3 overarching key themes. So one of them is safe and inclusive communities. One of them is sustainability focused. And we also have a health, performance and well-being theme. Those themes are all very big and broad, so usually quite a lot of things that businesses approach us about can fit into one of them somewhere, but it guides some internal funding and focus that we put on our research specialisms here, and it also it helps to kind of link us up with wider government innovation strategy in terms of where we're focusing our research and where we're hoping to have the greatest impact. We do have some cases where businesses are looking for something very specialist and we don't have the relevant expert, but we do have over 2,000 people within ARU. There's a lot of different specialisms. There's a huge amount going on, which is relevant to kind of modern challenges that businesses are facing. And as Camilla alluded to when she was chatting, it's almost a case of you kind of start the conversation and your discovery carries on with all the different things that are going on and the possibilities. So we're really happy to have a chat and be quite open actually around exploring some of those expertise and the ways that we could work with external businesses. And it may be on a specific project that's quite focused on a particular area, bringing some of our R&D. It could be a whole range of things around innovation vouchers, working with students and graduates, or looking at sort of partnering with businesses on different activities like events, for example. So it really depends on the business need. It depends on what funding streams might be available for us to have a look at. And each conversation is quite unique. So we can't guarantee that we could have every expert available that a business might want, but there aren't very specific areas that we as a university focus on. And we'll be open to a conversation with anyone that was interested in working with us to see if we could help.
Brilliant, thank you. We've got one more from Stephen Wilson. We can talk about the specialisms and resources. Is it all on the website? We've got some links throughout the presentation, or is it probably better actually having a chat with one of you guys?
I'm not sure if I'm back now, but I hope I don't freeze this time
you
around. Yeah, brilliant. So it's really hard to kind of like cover everything, as Amy's saying, because in terms of our areas of expertise and research, there is so much information, but it is on the website. I think I might have mentioned earlier, we've got our research and innovation highlights. We could probably send you a link to that. And that just gives you an idea of some of the research projects that we've been involved in recently, funded through things like UKRI, but also some of the more commercial projects that we get involved in as well. So we can send you the link to that. But yes, everything else in terms of the faculties, the research groups and the areas of specialism are on the website, as well as the research institutes that I think Amy's mentioned earlier as well, things like Story Lab and Peer. But we also have, I've lost where I was going with that one. There's something else on there as well.
Don't worry, we've got there's quite a lot of links on the slides as well. So if you think about it, either pop it in the link or in the chat, or send it over and I'll highlight them later. I was going to ask one question. I'm just a bit mindful of the time, actually. It was a question for Camilla, I guess, or Camilla and Amy. Camilla, you mentioned about the time that it took to go through the project and stuff, and it was time well worth spending. But how long was it? And did the KTP people put the sort of deadline on you, or how did that work?
No, thank you. I mean, I'm trying to think, Amy, when was it we met? Was it 2016, 17, I think? It's quite a long time ago.
It was quite a while ago, and then the conversation developed over also a small pilot project that was funded with faculty money, wasn't there, before we got to the point where we actually decided we were progressing with a KTP. Yeah,
exactly. So it does take time, but it is about building relationships. And I would say, on all those questions about how do you know who to talk to, Amy and her colleagues are a true gift to this process, because they're marriage, they're like marriage brokers. they know everybody in the university, they can make those connections, they've seen them all so many different projects, and can just make those connections and help broker conversations and bring people together. And that's so valuable, because we started with Story Lab, but actually we working with other departments in university as the project ambitions grew and the focus started to emerge. It took time, just because it was a serendipitous meeting that Amy and I had in London that day, but it was something I was thinking, well, how can we kind of launch this off and get going with this? And Amy made it very easy. So I would say it is all about the relationships building, and with all relationships, you invest more time and effort into it, the more you'll get from it. But I mean, the process for the application and all of that, and the planning for that, I would say it's a good 12 months really. We did a pilot project, as Amy said, because we wanted to test the relationships and test see that what we're doing we're on the right track, or wasn't a better way of doing it. Could we work together? Yes, it turned out we could. But actually getting to the nuts and bolts required, some regular meeting. We're meeting every 3 or 4 weeks to, and sometimes more frequently, just to hammer out the detail of the application and the case. So I think I would say a good 12 months to do that, and to get it right. But the support you get from the university and the KTP advisors and all those is tremendous, and so valuable, because it's not something I felt we could do alone. It's we needed that kind of team endeavour. And just going back to one point about kind of sectors, with a KTP, you've really got to have your commercial head on for it. It's really, they're looking at business development and commercial development. So we're a charity, and we don't, that's not our natural environment. So we have to think in that way a lot more for the KTP application, to really articulate what our ambitions were in a very commercial language, if you like. So that's something to think about if you're not a commercial business. It's your first and foremost identity, if you like. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely helpful, because actually I had a couple of charities who were asking whether or not this presentation was for them, and I was like, well, our case study is from a charity, so what have you got to lose, kind of thing. Yeah, but it's interesting what you say about the pilot project. It sounds like a very sound idea, and before you kind of go whole hog. Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Amy, for collaring me at making the most of membership a while ago now. To say we want to do something, and we thought, yes, we should. And for coming up with the suggestions for doing these couple of events. That's been absolutely fantastic. I can see in the chat there's probably some more questions and things, and Amy has put down the business@aru.ac.uk email address if you want to get in touch with the team. And yeah, it sounds absolutely worth doing that. It sounds a brilliant thing. Camilla, we'll have to look at your website and see if we can find out what the project looks like and its end. What am I trying to say?
Watch this space. Yes,
like when it's finished. That'd be fantastic. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, ARU, for all your time and energy, and for David for driving the slides as well, and certainly for Camilla for being interviewed in such a great way. Brilliant. Thank you, everybody. Have a good lunch.
Thanks for having us. Thanks.
Bye.